Welcome to this special Sound Off retro clip here on the official YouTube channel for the Solid Monster Sounds Off Wrestling Podcast, which you can listen to in full every Sunday afternoon on the solidmonster.com, in Stitcher Radio, or in iTunes. In just a couple of weeks at WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan will be wrestling Triple H. The winner of that match will wrestle for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in the main event. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to go back in the vault, so to speak, for the people who maybe never heard this interview before, and if you have, it's probably been a few years. Back during WrestleMania weekend in Miami in 2012, myself, Noah Mark, and Brian Blade, who are friends of the show, we all had an opportunity to interview a whole bunch of WWE superstars face-to-face in person 2 days before WrestleMania. This was part of WrestleMania weekend in Miami. So we got a chance to talk to some of the biggest names in the company at the time. You can hear clips of all these interviews on Sound Off episode 212. If you go on the solidmonster.com, scroll back, you can find that episode. That's where we had clips of all of these interviews. But the first person that we had a chance to meet with and to talk to was the then World Heavyweight Champion at the time, Daniel Bryan. This was 2 days before Bryan lost the title to Sheamus in 18 seconds at WrestleMania, which was, looking back, a turning point in his career. I think that match and the reaction from the fans the next night and then the week after that and the week after that launched him to a different level. And I don't know that WWE really expected that to happen, but it did. So I thought it would be fun to listen to this interview because, first of all, it's a good interview. He's really just very down-to-earth, very straightforward, fun, easy guy to talk to. And very forthcoming, and also just to see where he was then, where his head was then. You could even hear during the interview he talks about Rock and Cena. That was the big main event 2 years ago in Miami, and that was the match that was selling tickets, and how he aspired to one day be that person. He wanted to be the guy who would be in the main event, who people would pay money to see. And you can argue that he's reached that point now. I know some people still aren't sold on the guy, but it's hard to argue that he isn't the top star, top babyface, or whatever, in terms of popularity in the company right now, and it's fun. It's fun to see where he was then and how far he's come in the last 2 years. So if you've never heard the interview before, I think you'll like it. It's not terribly long, but I thought it would be a fun trip back in time. I want to thank Noah Mark again. He kind of helped get this whole thing organized, and he asked a lot of questions too, so he'll be probably the main voice you hear here. But we all chimed in with different questions, and for those of you who listen to the Sound Off, you hear the vegan clip in our intro. You'll know what I'm talking about. That was from this interview. I'm sure you'll be able to spot it when he mentions it. So, again, it's a brief interview, but a fun one. And it's an interview with the then World Champion and future WWE Champion, I'm sure, Daniel Bryan, from WrestleMania 28 weekend in Miami. Enjoy.
Daniel, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's funny. We were broadcasting live last year at WrestleMania 27. The match this year is Daniel Bryan against Sheamus. And that was the match last year, but it actually didn't make it to the card.
Right, yeah. Let's hope that doesn't happen this year. You'd think with it being the World Heavyweight Championship it wouldn't, but you never know.
And now it's for the World Heavyweight Championship. So full circle, 1 year later, describe the year for you.
I mean, it's been an up and down year. I mean, every year here in WWE, I think, has its ups and downs and whatnot, but it's been a lot of fun. I mean, we've gone to some really cool places this year, and I've had won Money in the Bank. I've become the World Heavyweight Champion, and it's been really cool because there have been a lot of pay-per-views I haven't even been on, and now here's the biggest one of them all, and I'm in a World Heavyweight Championship match, so that's pretty cool.
Is it frustrating being at a pay-per-view and not being on the card and feeling that you're ready, you're there, and just not getting the tap?
It is frustrating. What's more frustrating is not even being flown into the show and and just being sitting at home. After I had won Money in the Bank, I thought, well, at least they'll fly me into every show, but that's not the case. Even there was the show where Big Show and Mark Henry did a superplex off the top rope, and they broke the ring, and people were like, "Oh, is Daniel Bryan gonna come out?" Well, I would have had I been there. But I was sitting at home in Vegas.
Do you order the pay-per-view?
No.
Did they give you a pass for the pay-per-view?
No, you think they would.
They should.
Yeah, they should, but they certainly don't.
It's interesting because Noah mentioned kind of coming full circle in the course of a year. And you and CM Punk are world champions at the same time. Now, you and Punk have similar backgrounds in that you came up on the independent scene.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you nearly killed me at a Ring of Honor show once in New Yorker with your flip dive. Looking at your background, coming from that, the struggles, scratching and clawing your way to get to WWE, in FCW right now, there's a couple of people I believe you're friendly with who you've worked with before.
How does it make you feel, and does it in some way validate all of your hard work to see that you're finally getting the recognition that you never got before?
No, I mean, you're still scratching and clawing, but the thing that people don't realize is they feel like there's an end in sight. They feel like, oh, you finally made it. And in my mind, there is no making it. It's always just this journey, and this journey is fun. Like, you can't, like the scratching and clawing, people think, oh man, that must have been tough. I mean, it was tough physically, but it wasn't tough mentally. I love those guys in Ring of Honor. We had so much fun together, doing traveling, all that stuff, and we'd go to Europe, we'd go to Japan, we'd do all this stuff, and people were like, man, that must have been hard, and it wasn't. It was fun. And so to me, I'm still scratching and clawing because I'm not where I want to be. I want to be in the position that Cena and Rock are in this year, where they're the ones selling this show. People outside of WWE are buying this show for Rock and Cena, and I want to be that guy.
Well, it's interesting you bring up Rock and Cena because there's been a little bit of debate, with The Rock being back. I know some people fall on opposite sides of the coin. Some people are happy that Rock is back and feel that he adds a lot to WrestleMania. And you have some other people, and CM Punk being one of these people that has voiced, I don't know about his displeasure, but the fact that The Rock is back and perhaps he's taking a spot away from somebody else, or he's not one of the boys, so to speak. How do you feel about Rock being back? Have you spoken with him at all? And what are your thoughts on Rock versus Cena?
I have not. I've spoken to him a little bit. I've said hi and bye and that sort of thing. But I am for Rock being at WrestleMania, and because it brings so much exposure to the show. But what I would like for it to happen is for that to be what's pushing, that's driving people to watch the show. But when they watch the show, what they stay for is the stars that are currently here. And that's one of the biggest issues I think that we face, is that for WrestleMania, the two biggest matches that everybody's talking about are Cena and Rock and Triple H and Undertaker and Hell in a Cell. The problem with that is the only guy who's going to be on our April tour that goes to Europe is John Cena out of those four guys. So after this show, people order the show for those two matches. After this show, we need them to be staying for the guys who are in the rest of the matches. All of that is about opportunity. It's about being given the opportunity to steal the show. And sometimes, like last year, me and Sheamus were supposed to wrestle for the United States title. I felt last year we were going to steal the show. And then all of a sudden, we're not even on the show. So
tell me how that happens.
Actually, we found out in a meeting where everybody was there. It was the Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania, and we find out we're just sitting there, and it's just the pre-Mania meeting. Okay, guys, we got a bunch of stuff lined up, all that kind of stuff. We've got some things switching around. Sheamus and Daniel Bryan's match is going to be the pre-show match, and you could just see Sheamus's face drop because for different people it's different. For me, I never expect things to happen when they tell me things are going to happen. Like okay, this is what's billed to happen. So right after Elimination Chamber, when I realized I didn't have to defend my title between then and WrestleMania, and they're like, wow, that means technically I'm going to have a World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania. And then they think in the back of my mind, there have been so many things that I've thought were going to happen that didn't happen, that I've always thought, like, okay, there's a good chance this won't happen, and mentally you have to prepare for that. Well, somebody like Sheamus, since he's been in WWE, he shortly after he started, he won the WWE Championship, right? His first WrestleMania, he was wrestling Triple H, you know what I mean? So for him, that was, I think, probably his first huge disappointment, and I'm used to that kind of stuff. So.
Is that the MO? Bring a new guy in, put him to the top, give him a little taste of that rarefied air, maybe have him work with a very popular guy to try to bring him into the mix, and then bring him back down and work on him a little bit?
I don't think so. I mean, I think people put more stock into that, like they have this agenda to do that. I just think it naturally happens sometimes. People come up, people go down. Like you can't stay on top for an entire, with how many TV shows we run, it's impossible to keep a guy on top for that long, except for a guy like Cena who's transcended what stardom is in the WWE, amongst this generation.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just to pivot to another topic here, my friend Bryan actually has something in common with you.
Well, actually, three things in common: the name,
okay,
the beard, and I have to ask you, do you attribute some of the newfound success you had? I'm a fellow vegan, actually.
Okay.
I've been living the lifestyle since 2004 for health and ethical reasons, so I would love to know, what brought this on, and are you a health vegan, an ethical vegan, cross of both? And I have a follow-up question after that.
Okay, I'm a health vegan. I wish I could eat meat. I really do. But a lot of PETA supports me, and they would hate to hear me say that sort of thing. But I actually did it for health reasons. I had elevated liver enzymes. I had high cholesterol. In 2009, I had 3 different staph infections. Because I do a lot of grappling and stuff, and the mats are always dirty. And guys will occasionally get a staph infection here or there, but my immune system is so weak that it just wasn't fighting off the bacteria. So then when I went and talked to my doctor, he said, one of the things you need to try is going vegan. The idea being is that meats, cheeses, milks, it takes so much energy for your body to digest. And by not eating that, I use that energy to fight off the bacteria. So I've been healthier since. The problem is just that, late at night, you're driving on the road, there's nothing to eat. So
Have you ever gotten any backlash? You said PETA has supported you. Have you gotten any backlash from the vegan community in general? Because you're vilifying the vegan thing, pushing it on people on TV, of course. Any backlash? You're villainizing, you're pushing it on people. Anything of that nature?
No, do you know what? I haven't gotten any of that. I think the vegans that I've talked to think it's really funny.
It's cool.
Yeah, they think it's funny. But what I have gotten backlash from vegans on Twitter is they say that your title belt is made of leather. You're not a real vegan. And
Right.
if I hold on to my title after WrestleMania, I'm pushing for a hemp belt. I want to wear
Leather.
I love
a
it.
hemp belt to the ring.
It's just an amazing event here, and we're all excited to be here. And of course, we mentioned The Rock, we mentioned Cena. What is your pick? What is your pick for the match?
I would have to think Cena, but those guys, it's funny because in wrestling, it's the same thing in MMA, right? Grudges, there's real grudges,
Right.
and there's really grudges between the guys, but it's played up, you play it up on TV. This has been downplayed, the grudge between these two guys. It has been downplayed on TV as far as I can tell. These guys dislike each other more than any two guys I can remember in a long time, probably since Brett and Shawn, And so
Wow.
So to me, I wish that was captured more on television, how much these guys really truly dislike each other. So I am fascinated to see what's going to happen on Sunday.
I wanted to ask you about this because one of the things that became a big story, Michael Cole.
Mm-hmm.
And for months and months, Michael Cole railed on you and just bashed you at every opportunity. And now all of a sudden, it seems like maybe he's coming around. He's kind of hopping on the Daniel Bryan bandwagon a little bit. What are your thoughts on Michael Cole, both as an announcer and as a human being? And also, what do you attribute this change in attitude to?
You know what? It's just people jump on the bandwagon all the time, and a lot of it has to do with him keeping into his I want people to hate me, that sort of thing. As an announcer, he does do an effective job sometimes. Just because he likes me doesn't mean I like him. I've still been cold with him because ever since I've came here, he has treated me disrespectfully, and that doesn't change around. It's just he's good now. He used to be, not good, but now he's good.
He might have taken your spot last year at WrestleMania when you think about it.
Well, with how much time he was out there, probably did.
Maybe Stone Cold had something to do with that.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I respect Michael because he's a very accomplished announcer and broadcast journalist. I think he won some Emmys.
He went to Kosovo.
He was a war correspondent.
And so, I mean, he's very accomplished at what he does. But as far as he's no Jim Ross, if I were to be in that big Rock Cena main event, I would want Jim Ross calling that match.
Daniel Bryan, World Heavyweight Champion. It's been an honor. Thank you so much. Well, before we go, real quick, favorite WrestleMania moment to date.
Favorite WrestleMania?
Yours, another person's.
Well, this is my first WrestleMania. I mean, I don't count last year. So
that's right. That's
so
right.
My favorite WrestleMania moment was Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, WrestleMania 12, the Iron Man match. They go 60 minutes, incredible match. Come back, do another 2 or 3 minutes. Bam! Shawn Michaels wins with the super kick and hold it. And it felt like, man, because you watch him as he's coming up, and as a fan, that was just so cool. Seeing him as one of the Rockers, seeing him as being just a lowly undercard guy, and then all of a sudden here he is in the main event of WrestleMania, and they just put on a hell of a show. And that's my ideal WrestleMania moment.
And they had that graphic Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels 0-0 the whole time. Nobody scored a pinfall.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Overtime.
Overtime. All right. Thank you so much, Daniel Bryan. We appreciate it. Thanks
Yep,
for
thank you
an
guys
honor.
for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you.